Mittwoch.
You know, is the
I,
gas cheaper there?
Shavua Tov. What?
at the Indians, but from the Indians, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, they bombed the oil tankers or something today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the oil. What is it?
Which country's oil was it?
Iran. Yeah, yeah. Israeli strikes against regime's oil depots.
Hmm. I thought about that last week. How long will it take?
I don't know. There's a lot of them. Wow. Of course, they're going to blame everything. It's Israel is because all the gas is high, all because of the Jews.
Mhm.
Sounds like normal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where's our peerless leader? He said he was going to come on. Oh,
Yeah. Ah,
Yeah.
nice sweater, Harold.
oh, thank you.
What of?
Good
Shavua Tov.
of.
Sort of.
We are on Nun Dalet, 54. Tanrabanan
Oh,
machlitzin betapuchin. So the shtei lechem and the loaves of the Torah that have to be chametz have chametz, and they would. There was a question whether if you add apple juice, is that enough to make chametz? So, according to the Tanakama, apple juice does not cause enough chametz for it to be considered chametz. Mishum Rav Chanina ben Gamliel amru machmitzin. Yes, you can use the apple juice. Rav Kana Maslo Rav Chananya ben Tradyo. Some say that it wasn't Rav Chanina ben Gamliel, but Rav Chananya ben Tradyo. Now, Kaman Azla Hadisnan. So then, who is the following Mishnah like? Tapuach sherizku v'nasnu b'sochayisa. You have apples that were truma, and you put it in a dough that's not truma, even though it's less than shishim or less than 100, because I think regular isser is mevatel echad b'shishim, and by truma it's echad b'meya. So let's say it's 1 in 500, but chimtza, but it changed the quality of the dough that it becomes chametz, arezu asura. Because if something, even if it's less than the shear that would normally usher it in a mixture, since it's caused it to become chametz, it would be ushered to a non-coin to eat it. Now, come on, Lamed Rav Chanina ben Gamliel v'lo Rabbanon. Remember, Rav Chanina was one who said that apple juice has the power to make it chametz, and the Chachamim said no. Perhaps the Baraisa that we just quoted is only in the name of Rav Chanina. So the Gemara said, "Afilu tem Rabbanon nihi de chametz gomer lohavi." The Rabbanon hold that apple juice cannot make a dough complete chametz. However, nuksha miyav chametz nuksha. Chametz nuksha is a dough that it's deficient. It's not fully chametz, but chametz nuksha that it can do, and therefore they would still, since it's changed its status to chametz nuksha, they would also agree that it would be usher for a non-coin to eat. Amra Vela. So a Kohen has to do kmitza with his fingers, right? And a minchas chote is flour without any oil. It's very dry. So it's very hard to make sure that because some of the flour is going to leach out of his hand, it's going to become deficient. However, Rav Yitzchak bar Divi Omer minchas chote megaveh b'mayim ukshev. You can add a little water to it. Once you added water, it's not such a dry flour that has a tendency to leach out of his hand, it'll stay in his hand. Now, lemebal kamiflagi. The marsav kamoishain misharina. Do we assess the size of something based on what it is now? Since you added water to it, that's its shear. No, we look at the way it was before you added the water, where it was deficient, and it would not be good. Gemara says low. We look at the way it is now. When it says that a minchas chote has to be dry, chareva, that means it can't have oil, but it can add water. It has to be completely chareva. And therefore, if you add water, it's not a minchas chareva. Okay, so we opened up this subject of, do we look at something at its current size, or what do we look at what it was originally? So tnanos b'sar egel shenitpach. You have calf meat that initially was smaller than a kibetza, but then it swelled through a process to become a kibetza. Upsar zakena, an older calf, its meat was a kibetza, but shnismayach, it shrunk. Mishtar lekamoshein. Now, food has to be kibetza in order to be makabel tumah. So how do we assess it? Do we assess it the way it was initially, the way it is now? Rav Chia, Rav Yechlan Amri, Mishtar kamoshein. We look at the way it is now. Shmuel, Rav Shimon, Rav Berebi, Reish Lakish Amri, Mishtar kamoshein. We assess them the way they were initially. So Meisfei. Sorry, you had a piece of veal that was less than a kibetza. The topach v'amen al kashir, and then it grew, and it became a kibetza. So tor l'sho'avar, anything that it touched in the pet remains tor because it was less than a kibetza. But the tome mikanu la'aba. From now on, it's tome. So we see that we look at what it is now, not at what it was before. So the Gemara says, no. Midrabanan. Minatorah, we identify the way it was before it swelled. And before it swelled, it was a kibetza. So Minatorah, it's not Tomei. That which we say that it's not Tomei Mikano Laba, it's not Tumim B'Dorais, it's only Tumim B'Drabana. Let's learn the Seif of that Barais. It says, V'chein b'pigul, v'chein b'noiser. We know what pigul is. Pigul is when the kohen had a machshava on a korban to eat it chutz l'zmano. The din is if you eat kazayas of pigul, you get kares. Similarly, korban that was left over till the next morning, noiser. If you eat a kazayas, you get kares if you eat a kazayas. Now, if we say that now that the calf meat is kibetza, and we would say that the tumah that you're giving it is tumah deraisa, hainu deka pikul v'noiser. Well, pikul v'noiser is also midaraisa, so I understand that. Eliyam midrabanan. If you say that you're giving it tumah only midrabanan, pikul v'noiser midrabanan miika. There's no rabbinic pikul v'noiser. These are deraisa deketins. We're not talking about eating the pigel and eating the noiser. That in a chanaim you need a kazayas. But when you touch pigel and you touch noiser, you also become tomei. Touching pigel and noiser is only a tumah drabonon. But kulai b'drabonon lo drabonon. To say that initially it starts off less than shear, now it's a shear, maybe they wouldn't extend the tumah to pigel and noiser as well. Kamashman that we do. Toshma. Bazar sakena shayibo kashir. You had meat, it was an older animal, and it had a shear kibetza. The tzamach pachos mikashir, and it shrunk. and now it's less. Tame l'sha'avar. That which it touched before, when it had a shear, everything will be tame. But the tormi kan laba. But now that it's less than a shear, so you see, we don't say we look at what it was initially and it remains that way forever. We look at what it is currently. So Amar Rabba, so these are the rules. Something that had a shear and doesn't have a shear now, halespe. So it doesn't convey tumah because it doesn't have the shear. But initially, if it started off without and now it has tumah, but it's only drabana. Key plea, the issue of machloikes is a more complicated case. It started off kibetza, v'tzamach, and it shrunk, and then v'chazer v'topach, and then it expanded. So the machlokas is in the principle of dichui. We've had dichui by korbanos, right? You have a dam and you take it outside of that zara. It's nidche. Hoil nidche. You can't resuscitate it by bringing it back inside. Well, do we say the same thing by either isurim or by tumma? The marsava yesh dichui b'isura. Once it's shrunk and it's no longer the shear, then that's it. The dichui is permanent. Umarsava ain't dichui b'isura. Dichui might hold by kotshim, but by isra v'heter and tumma v'tahara, there is no dichui. So now that it came back to its regular size, we say that there is tumma. So there's a machloikas regarding that. The Gemara says, I don't think you can find anybody that holds that there's a principle of dichui by isurin, that once it's no longer a shear, it's pushed away forever. But none. You had food, it was the size of a kibetza, which is mekabel tumah. You put it in the sun and it shrunk. V'nismatu. And it's less than a kibetza. V'chein. Kazais v'nameis, which conveys tumah, but you put it in the sun and it shrunk. Or kazais v'nanavela, which if you touch conveys tumah, but now it's shrunk. Or kadosh v'nasheretz. The sheretz the size, a dead sheretz the size of a lentil bean. Ukazais pigul, ukazais noiser, ukazais chaylev. These are edible things, which now is shrunk to hoirid. Those that tumah v'tahara applies, it's tohor. And if you consume it now that it's less than a kazayis, you're not chayiv kares. Vice versa, if it was less than a kashir, and hinichan bikshamim v'topchu, you put it out in the rain and it swelled up, tmein. Those things that convey tumma now convey tumma. And if you eat the pigul noiser v'chelev that are now the right size, chayav from pigul noiser v'chelev. Even though, if you say dichui, once it starts off less than a shear, it's dichui forever. Tiyuf the mandamer yesh dichui b'isurin. It's a kasha on the person who says that once it's nitcha, it's nitcha. Tiyufta, we knocked him out. Toshma. The same, we're going to deal with the same issue about things that shrink and things from what they are now. Tormin te'enin la groigros b'minyan. You have to give meiser. And you have fresh figs and dried figs. If let's say you have 100 figs, so you do it by number, 10 fresh figs for the 90 dried figs, not by volume. Now, if the dried figs which have shrunk, we assess them the way they were initially. So now I understand why when you give meiser now, you do it based on number. But if we look at the dried figs as they were, havale marbe k'meisris, you're giving too much of the fresh figs. Now, what's the problem with giving too much meiser? Because the extra that you gave beyond what you needed is really tevel, because you never took any meiser from that. Hamar b'meiser is perosim mesukadim. Now, that which you gave, the stuff that you gave, the 90, then you gave the 10. The 90 is not tevel, but within the 10, meiser mekukom, you can't eat the meiser because there's extra stuff that's not really technically meiser. So we do it the way they were initially. Well, aim is safer. Grois ala te'enim b'mida. If you're going to give the meiser from the dried figs for regular figs, that is done by volume and not by number. And that only works. We look at the dried figs as they are now, shrunken. So that's why you want to do it by volume. But you're going to do it as before they were shrunk. Again, marba meiser here. You're going to give more. The meiser that you give, some of that is not going to be true meiser. You're not going to be able to eat it. So, we're not talking about meiser. We're talking about when you give meiser to the Levi has to give trumas meiser. But what truma gedoyla has no shear. Even chita achas poteres sakri. Whatever you give. Breisha, when you gave too much, is buying yofa. The sefer buying yofi. They're both buying yofa. That you're allowed to do by truma, not by meiser. So if you're going to learn like that, yochi em sefer. Amr Rabbi Yosi. He would give 10 dried figs for the 90 regular figs. Truma Gedoyla is not 10th. It's 140th, it's 150th. Esther Mayavidite. What's the 10th here? It's not regular meiser, it's trumas meiser. That the Levi had to give a 10th from his meiser. Abelazar ben Goimel, the Tanya. Abelazar ben Goimel Oimer. V'nachshav lachem trumaschem. We're talking about b'shtei trumas hakosim medaber. Achas truma gedoyel, v'achas trumas meiser. We're talking about regular truma that you give to the kohen, and the trumas meiser that the Levi has to give from his meiser. Kishem she truma gedoyel, and he tells ba'oimed, you can give truma gedoyel without even counting. You just do it by estimating how much. Uvemachshava. You don't have to physically separate it. Just you can plan. Oh, I'm going to give this and this. Kach trumas meiser, and he tells ba'oimed uvemachshav. So too. So we're talking about trumas meiser. It's not a kasha based on this thing that we were talking about. You assess it the way it is now, the way it is later. Okay. We're going to continue with for Ezra 8 o'clock.
Tomorrow 7, right?
Tomorrow 7.
Don't forget to move your clocks tonight.
Okay, shkoyach.
Thank you.